All right, so you're thinking about fixing one of them springs above your garage door. They call them torsion springs. Well, this is the only video you're going to find that shows you what you're really getting yourself into. It's not easy, but it's doable. And my mistakes are sometimes the best service secrets you can learn from. The meal's behind the camera. Let's get started. Before you get too cocky, understand your garage door is one of the most dangerous things in your house. Keep your eyes on the scale as I slowly release the jack. You hear it bearing down? Sounds like Helen planking across two wooden chairs. Let me give it a shake to settle the scale. Okay, so it's a good 270 pounds. They could fall smack dab on your head. And knowing that weight is important to getting the right size springs for the job. I bought mine from ExpressGarageDoorParts.com, and this ain't no paid endorsement for them, but I am happy with their service. You could also get your parts from DDM and other suppliers like that, or pay to have them installed, because it's a dicey procedure. Now, I don't think for safety purposes mortals should attempt this, but I bought the two springs. Everybody's springs could be different depending on the weight of your door. And I bought these two winding rods. Their lethality is not to be underestimated. And Express threw in the replacement cables, which I thought was a nice touch, and I found this here thing, which is a plastic spacer grommet. More on that a little bit later, but look here, friend. Don't get confused, because this here red nut, well, that don't mean nothing. However, this red splotch of paint, that means this spring has a right-hand winding. The one with the black splotch, well, that's got a left-hand winding, and it's still got the set screws, though, that are red, so don't get confused. Now, I'm wearing safety glasses and gloves. Now, I'm going to cut the power to the garage door opener at the fuse box or unplug the cord, and I'm going to disengage the opener from the door. Plus, I'm going to lock this door so nobody tries to open it from the outside. You can also clamp vice grips above this here roller, because paranoia just means recognizing all the possibilities. Taking off this broken spring that exploded like a gunshot is kind of a no-brainer with a 3/8 inch open-ended wrench. I used a 10mm socket. But I also use the opportunity to practice on this side because I ain't never handled winding rods and I wanted to get my technique down good. And remember to stay out of the path of the rod because there's going to be intense pressure bearing down on it, and you don't want to let your face, your neck, your wrist, or any piece of flesh on your body get in the path of these here winding rods. Because if they slip, the neighbors are going to see you get loaded up in an ambulance and carted off to a hospital in your underwear. And then you'll die of embarrassment. Well, it ain't going to take you long to figure out that perfectly round, smooth steel rods on top of a perfectly flat ledge is a recipe for frustration in an unimaginable tapestry of profanity. Yep. See, they're going to roll off. See, there we go. So I get a towel. What I put up here, I just nestle them in there and it holds them. And you'll develop a respect for how deadly they are and why you probably need a helper. Here's the real McCoy. I think about my moves a little. Yeah. And I've seen videos where they recommend a certain side, but I try standing on the right. Something about reaching over to unscrew the set keys like this feels more natural. I get my rod in there tight and start loosening the set screws and pray for the best. Now I start feeling the tension and doing the math. I realize each one of these torsion springs has 135 pounds worth of force on it at the center. That's about 90 pounds bearing down on me at the end of this rod.
You're not doing anything stupid, are you?
Oh, man. Yeah, I realize you got to take a hand-over-hand approach with these things where you don't want to go yanking one rod out unless you're darn sure you got a grip on the next rod and it's fully inserted. But yeah, I'm up against the situation here because the bottom one is jammed in there too tight to yank out, and I ain't got no ceiling clearance to hoist up the top one. Yeah, so less than 5 minutes into the job, I'm already in a pickle. So using my superhuman strength, I'm lifting the 90 pounds worth of tension at the bottom one, so to tighten these set keys back in place, so that one's in a position now where I can pull it whilst holding the top one. Yeah, the top one ain't giving me the lift I need. I don't have the space up in there. Okay. Yeah, she wants to spin bad, and them screws is hardly holding her, but I'm going to loosen them the rest of the way and prepare for my next wrestling match with this top one. Yeah, I can't believe I got to do this like 31 more times. Yeah, now I just lost a driver. This is a struggle that would bring most mortal men to tears, but after the first few turns, there's not quite as much weight bearing down on you. So you got to do this for about 31 quarter turns. And you drop your tools about 39 times, but just repeat these steps till the spring's completely unwound. And it's important to point out, you getting this with the hat cam, DeMille? Yeah. It's important to point out, you see where them set screws used to be? This thing's actually getting shorter as you release the tension on it. And finally, we got a loose and much less dangerous torsion spring. So it's time to loosen the torsion hardware. We're gonna remove 2 bolts that hold the center stationary torsion cone. And again, I have no clearance. I use a combination of tools, starting with an open-ended wrench. And I turn the bolt heads instead of the lock nuts. It makes sense. And finally used my drill with a socket attachment on it. Yeah, quit belly aching, DeMille. Chicks dig guys with eye patches. Yeah, getting this off, it was a beast. This wasn't no fun. Yeah, there's that plastic bushing, and I'm just going to reuse it. You only need 1 bushing. Wait a minute, what's this? Oh, it says do not remove this tag. May cause severe injury or death. Yeah, we're just going to leave this right here. Black Sharpie coming into action. Yeah, I'm going to mark the drum to keep track of its position on my shaft. So I'm using a 7/16 open-ended wrench to take these off, and this part's actually pretty easy. It's pretty intuitive. You're just going to loosen them up. Oh, geez, look, it come right out of the middle there. Yeah, I guess you could use a pair of vice grips or some clamps to hold that in place. But I got some thermostat wire, wound it up good, and got on with my business. A stupid mistake. So once she's moving freely, I take the cable off of the drum, and of course she's still attached down below. We're going to take that off in a minute. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Yeah, if you could get a socket wrench in there, more power to you. Now I'm going to shove that shaft out of here and hang on, something's causing it to be stuck. Even my dead blow hammer ain't talking no sense into it. So I go back over to the other side and I look at it with fresh eyes and realize that just by bending this bracket just ever so much releases the tension on the shaft. Whoa, there we go. And I now bent the heck out of my shaft, but hang on, DeMille, don't roll on this. It seems to be okay. Now you're at least in a position to take off this pulley wheel and take off your old broken spring. A lot of you might be just taking off one broken spring and replacing it with a new one. I'm replacing both of mine, and so this would be the perfect time, by the way, to, slide your new spring into position. But I want to show you something critical with these new springs. First here, let me get this other side off, and the method is the same and the spring bends, so if there's not a lot of room between the wall, well, there's how you slide her out, all right? Easy as pie. And I know I showed you part of this earlier, but I can't emphasize this enough with these springs. The one with this black splotch, that's your left-hand wound spring, what goes on the right side of the door. And the one with the red splotch, that's your right-hand wound spring, that goes on the left side of the door. The springs I got from Express show RHW, right-hand wind, and LHW for the left-hand wind springs. So let's get started by putting the left-hand wind spring up over the right side of the door. And of course, we're just reversing the process with a few nuances here. And if I was using the new grommet, it would really suck to forget it. Put it on now. I'm going to bend this torsion spring so we can get it over the track and slide it down the shaft. Remember the pulley, or I guess it's really called the drum. And I did notice deep indentations from the set screws, but the grommets slid over them easy. Otherwise, I'd probably think about getting a file on this and smoothing it out so nothing gets hung up on the sharp edges. But this tight grommet slides over this, so everything else should slide over it no problem. Yeah, I repeat the process on the other side, and it's round about this time that you realize holding 15 pounds in one hand while you're hyperextended over a ladder ain't no walk through the posies. Now I shove everything towards the center because I like to get the middle more permanently attached. Now I made sure the distance of my shaft from the wall here at the center was the same as the distance over near the drums. The lip of this bushing is up inside the bracket, not pressing against the side of it. And now using a couple wrenches, I tighten it up real good. Now I'm replacing my cable down here. The cable goes over this little button. Once again, you're dealing with limited space, friends, so it ain't no treat to try to get it out, but with some bent nose pliers and a little patience, I was able to do it. And yank it up and through. All right, so I line up the marks on my drum with the marks on my shaft, and you can see the previous indentations from the set screws. And I'm going to twist my red nuts a good 1/2 to 3/4 of a turn beyond finger tight. That is the set keys. And now I put a little bend in the end of my fresh cable, and I feed her into the slot to hold her in place to keep everything aligned. And once I get that nice and tight up in there, I shove it to the right, I hold it nice and tight, and I clamp my vice grips on the shaft, sandwich them up against the ceiling so they can't create slack in the opposite direction. Same process on this side now, except what you're going to do is start with the set screws loose, and then you're going to put on your cable and spin it around, and she's of course going to match up with the cable on the other side, which is tight, and tighten her down with your wrench finally, of course. And by doing this, both drums are now in sync, in the correct position. All right, so now we're going to put tension on the torsion springs so their pent-up energy will be constantly applying a twist to your shaft. Yeah, I hope you professionals will leave some comments about standing to the left versus standing to the right of the spring. I do know you got to steer clear of the path of that winding rod. If she comes shooting back at you, she'll slice your face off. To me, what matters is my particular dominant hand. So I encourage you to research what the best hand is to grab your rod with. I got 3 wrenches now, backups in case one of them falls, because when it's time to tighten them set screws, I want to be ready. And I'm going to make a little mark here so you can understand that by tightening the spring, I'm actually stretching it out, not compacting it. You're going to understand that when I show you later, because it's important, all right? So here we go. I got a little clearance problem here. And you see, I got low clearance on my ceiling. That's what nobody ever warns you about. And we got to do 31 of these turns. Pretty effortless at first, but DeMille, pick up the pace so folks don't need to see every inch of this. Some videos say you should run a line of paint down the spring before you start winding it, but mine got printed words on the side, and they'll work just as well to keep you on track of your turns. I'll show you how that works in a minute. It's important. After 10 of these, it feels like a real son of a... You've probably seen I nearly come to fisticuffs with Leatherfoot Escalante down at the pool hall over how torsion springs work. I'm going to summarize it for you real quick at the end of this video. It's important to know, are you stretching them? Are you squishing them? Well, you're sort of doing both, and you'll see what I mean later. So here's where those paint marks come in handy. If you count the spaces between each stripe you've created, well, that should tell you how many complete revolutions you've completed. In our case, we're doing 31 quarter turns, which means we need 7.5 revolutions. And that's exactly what we got if you count the spaces between these stripes. I got a 7.5-foot tall door, all right? And as you approach 31, it feels like your life is passing before your eyes. But I find a way to muscle through it, and yeah, I don't recommend it for most of you mortals out there. Most of you be crying like babies by now. Well, I worked through it, and I was able to get to the point where I could tighten down these set screws, thank God. I tighten them a good 3/4 of a turn beyond finger tight. And I recommend 3-hour fathers and 6 Hail Marys before you yank this final rod. Yeah, maybe one of them Gloria Padres. Oh, thank heaven. Now, the process on the other spring is the same, but there's something important to understand about these, so I want to rememberize you about how they work. We're going to use some high-dollar special effects here to illustrate what's really going on. You see, you're winding up the torsion spring, so to speak, and okay, you're twisting her together more, but look, these coils couldn't get any closer together, so instead of getting closer together, what they do, well, the whole spring squishes smaller in diameter as you wind it, all right? Well, just like a big fat log of Play-Doh, and if you were rolling it back and forth, making it thinner, what else is it doing? Well, it's also getting longer. All right, so yeah, we're winding it up for power, so to speak, but making it smaller, thinner, means making it longer. And that's why when you wind the spring, it actually grows in length. Thank you, Leatherfoot, for the $50 in the case of PBR you now owe me. So with the set keys tight, I unlock the door, take the vice grips off of everything, and the door is pert near weightless right now. So let's give her a test here. Yeah, wait, don't forget that. The idea here is that she shouldn't go flying up on her own. Yeah, she hangs there in the middle, and that's good. And she shouldn't go down on her own either without help. So you see, it's pretty well balanced. If it wasn't, you'd have to tighten up the spring more to give her more lift, or loosen the spring maybe back a quarter, a half turn to give her a little less lift if she was flying up and out of control. Mine just happens to be perfect. And finally, the moment you've been waiting for. This is Merv. I'll see you next time. Share our links with friends. It helps us in the search results, so DIY warriors just like you can find the secrets they need.